There were a few obstacles separating me from my destination. First, there was a forest. My party and I had to carve a way through predatory fauna, defensive elves, and hostile plant life. Poison was everywhere thanks to noxious green bulbs indefinitely spewing their contents around every bend. By this point in the game, my adventuring party was more than equipped to handle these foes, and we succeeded in overcoming the forest's challenges with little effort. Exiting the forest put us face to face with a village which I wanted to pass through. There were 2 bridges on either side of town, each defended by a different troll and each charging a different toll. The first troll charged 5,000 gold to cross the bridge, and the second charged 3 gold to cross the bridge. Unfortunately for me, the first troll's bridge is the one I needed to cross. I didn't want to pay his toll, so I tried speaking to him and striking up some sort of deal. He told me that the other troll was his competitor and he wanted this other troll taken care of. If I disposed of him, I could pass. I agreed to his terms and went to fight this second troll, and was met with the harsh reality of trolls being extremely powerful. After each turn, the troll regenerated his entire health due to trolls' natural self-healing properties, and so my party was killed without much issue. The death of my entire party was not in vain though, because their lives paid for a very crucial bit of information. I had a random poison arrow on hand that my archer fired that negated the troll's healing completely. Nobody in my party focused on poison damage, and this single arrow wasn't enough to turn the tides of battle on my second attempt, but then I got thinking. There were those noxious green bulbs that constantly spit out poison back in the forest. I went back to one of them and used my mage's teleport spell to move this bulb bit by bit. It took a few minutes, but I was able to transport it all of the way to the bridge and drop it smack dab in the middle. With the bridge now completely covered in poison, I fought the troll again while he was surrounded by his natural weakness. The poison from the bulb completely stopped his self-healing properties, and he went down without much of a fight thereafter. My 5,000 gold was saved. Now that I think about it, if I was gonna kill a troll anyway, why didn't I just kill the one charging 5,000 in the first place? Divinity Original Sin II is all about the emergent player-driven stories like the one I just described, and so much more. I've spent a few weeks and over 80 hours journeying through Rivellon, and I want to share with you how that journey was. From its opening moments with its character creation, you'll immediately be confronted with one of Divinity's greatest strengths, an incredible amount of choice. Humans, dwarves, elves, lizards, and undead versions of the above are available as races, with over a dozen different choices in terms of class. The classes serve more so as starting templates which can be built on top of, because all classes have access to the same abilities as long as points are spent appropriately. After my character was finalized, I was put into a story that I found more gripping than Original Sin's predecessor. A powerful type of magic called Source can be wielded by a small portion of the population known as sorcerers. The only downside is that utilizing that source attracts demons from the void to attack the area. In response, the religious authority in the region known as the Magisters have wrangled up all known Source users and applied Source-inhibiting collars onto them, and forced them to live in an isolated fort away from the general population. This island prison of Fort Joy is home to the game's first of 4 major acts, and it serves as a strong introduction to Divinity and some of its most important mechanics. One of these mechanics is how Original Sin II handles objectives. Rather than a specific list of things that need doing, most acts feature a very large, overarching objective. In Fort Joy's case, that objective is Escape Fort Joy. This goal serves as a sort of North Star while adventuring to provide some semblance of a destination, but it's broad enough that how someone gets there can vary dramatically from playthrough to playthrough, and I found that out firsthand when I played this first act a second time. The usual RPG options of converse, stealth, or fighting a path out all apply, but Divinity takes it a step further by allowing lots of miniature side quests to funnel into this escape attempt too, or you can just get really creative with the game's teleport spell. These broad objectives work so incredibly well because of the immense amount of freedom Divinity gives you to accomplish your goals, and in just how much Divinity is willing to let you miss. This game is not for completionists. Being a multi-talented hero who saves everybody's lives and can accomplish everything is physically impossible. Sometimes this is because quests or goals are competing and one path may lock out another, and other times it's because the quests and the people who give them are tactile and even fragile. There's a realness to Divinity, and I don't mean in its setting, but in how the game and its rules are constructed. Almost anything that isn't bolted to the ground is an interactable object that can be picked up or interfaced with spells in some way. Same goes for the environment and other characters. Water can be electrocuted to shock everyone standing in it, or it can be burned to create steam. That steam reduces visibility but can also be weaponized by shocking it and turning it into an electric cloud. The world and the items, elements, and people that inhabit it are all part of an interconnected tapestry of systems that you can weave how you please. And sometimes that realness means that NPCs are susceptible to the same sorts of dangers that you are. On one of my escape attempts out of Fort Joy, there was a caged paladin who was breaking free simultaneously. We banded together and fought back armed prisoners together, but unfortunately he died in combat. Unless I play the game again and put a larger emphasis on healing him and keeping him safe, I'll never know what his story is. Any dialogue or quests he could have offered me are gone, and I love that. If there's a bit of advice I can throw into this video for anyone looking to play the game, it's to roll with the punches. I made a point to not quick load any undesired outcomes because those undesired outcomes and how they ripple into other choices and decisions are very much one of Original Sin 2's greatest strengths. Most of this could be said about Original Sin 1 as well, but I actually think it comes together quite a bit better here because of the aforementioned broad objectives. I never found myself completely and hopelessly stuck in this sequel like I did in its predecessor, mainly because if there was ever a problem I couldn't figure out or a puzzle I couldn't solve, I could just sort of go do something else and would eventually find my way to my end goal at some point, or even come back to that puzzle later once I found more information about it elsewhere. It's hard to explain how much of a difference this freedom and realness in the game's rules truly makes to the moment-to-moment gameplay unless you've actually played it for yourself and had a chance to experience it. It reminded me a whole lot of the first time I played Morrowind, which on some level has those same principles underpinning it. A tactile, interactable world where you can pick up anything or kill anyone. It's very much the same here in Divinity. Freedom and realistic rules aren't exclusive to the exploration of the game's world. They shine in the combat as well. Combat is completely turn-based. Characters are given a specific amount of action points that each turn can be distributed among movement, spells, or attacks respectively. There's a lot of tactics to weigh here when considering positioning, synergies, high ground advantage, and more. Having a synergistic team that can combo elements and powers together is important, but maybe a little bit less important than it was last time around. The most notable change Divinity Original Sin 2 receives in the combat department is in how armor and saving throws work. Armor and spell armor aren't damage reduction modifiers like they would be in most other RPGs. Instead, they act as essentially extra health that sits on top of your normal health bar, but only blocks damage from physical or magic-based attacks respectively. This changes how moves that would leave you stunned or otherwise incapacitated work. While you have armor or spell armor, you can't be crowd controlled coming from moves of that respective type. Physical armor will stop you from being knocked down by physical attacks, spell armor will stop you from being charmed or stunned by magical attacks. This takes a lot of randomness out of the crowd control, which I would consider this system's biggest boon. There's also a bit more depth in target prioritization because of this system too, at least in the late game. Enemies after the first act start to have a wider gulf between their armor and spell armor, meaning that some are more susceptible to certain types of attacks than others. In a perfect world, mages should be targeting enemies with low spell armor, and physical attackers can be sicked on low physical armor characters. This mitigation of randomness and a bit of extra decision making in targeting comes at a pretty big cost though, in that I think this armor system undermines one of Original Sin's greatest strengths: the creative crowd control potential by mixing up elements and powers. Whenever a fight starts, my primary goal was punching through their armor as fast as physically possible before I started getting creative. It's a system that encourages unloading raw damage at the start of every fight, and then you're allowed to experiment with crowd control. This armor system is at least symmetrical, so you benefit from it as well. So conversely, you won't open up any fight getting chain stunned by your opponents. Overall, as a gameplay change, armor is sort of a mixed bag, but I appreciate what they were trying to do. And I don't want to see the system completely thrown out in a potential Original Sin 3, as much as I would want to see it reimagined or maybe tweaked. Otherwise, combat feels like it's a near-perfect strategic experience, with my only fundamental complaint being that it can sometimes really drag out, mainly because of the length of combat animations that have no way of being skipped or sped up. It's especially egregious as the game progresses, and more often, your party will be outnumbered. A majority of the time spent in fights is going to be watching your opponents take actions rather than you actually doing anything. There were a few sessions with Divinity where I just stopped playing because of ridiculously long fights. I don't have footage on hand specifically of the Act 2 oil field fight, but anyone who's played the game knows exactly what I'm talking about. Outside of the broadened quest objectives, I think the greatest improvements this sequel get is in terms of writing and voice acting. It takes itself a bit more seriously this time, but not so seriously that it's ditched lightheartedness entirely. Divinity Original Sin 2 isn't afraid to be funny and silly. It still allows you to talk to wandering animals if you talent correctly, and hearing about local events from the perspective of woodland creatures is a good laugh from time to time. It manages to embrace that aspect of its writing style without just being a big meme-filled joke, which is something I often felt while playing Original Sin 1. You're not going to find any enemies named Pontius Pirate this time around. The story itself focuses on the game's special flavor of magic known as Source and the interdimensional conflicts brought about by its use. The parties at play here are often larger than life, and it doesn't take long until one of your primary objectives becomes ascending to godhood. The main story has its moments, but to me the side stories and some of the individual character moments you get with your party members are the real star of the show. Much like a lot of the other pieces of this game, Divinity is totally okay with allowing the credits to roll without much of these stories being uncovered. But don't let that be the case for you in a hypothetical playthrough. These character missions should not be missed. Most of the other changes that this sequel makes really fall under the blanket of it being a remarkably improved production. Visuals are better, the UI and quest log are better, and the introduction of bedrolls takes the tedium out of spamming heals between combat encounters. It's coincidental that one of Act 1's themes, with its source-suppressed and exiled sorcerers, is the relationship between freedom and safety. Original Sin 1 was all about freedom, but quests would break on me all the time whenever I tried to do something out of the box and exert that freedom. Maybe it should have played it a little safer. That never happened to me here in Original Sin 2. I didn't encounter a single bug that broke any quests. All of those little improvements to the gameplay and the technical tally up to make a massive difference. Divinity Original Sin 2 is a great sequel that captures the spirit of its predecessor while also ditching what didn't work and improving what was already great. It's an RPG that's earned every letter of that acronym thanks to its realistic world and its commitment to letting you touch that world and leave a handprint. Over the past few weeks, I've escaped prison, battled void-woken monsters, and descended to godhood. But if you ask me to tell you about the most interesting part of my journey, it would involve trolls, bridges, and a noxious green bulb.